Hello, my name is Dustin Stevens, and this is the presentation video of my diversity plan for EFD 552 at Jacksonville State University. Um, I apologize if I sound a bit nasally or congested. My allergies have been really bad this time of year, so let's go. So to begin, I wanted to set a little bit of context since this isn't, I suppose, a traditional presentation, since we're not actually in a room with people with a big projection or anything. So I set this in a rural county like Cherokee County in Alabama. That's where I'm most familiar with, where I've done the majority of my actual practice of teaching. Um, when I was there, we had a lot of different types of students, several different ethnicities, different social statuses, and a fairly even spread of genders, however. But that was not the case, however, with the faculty and administration. That was very mono-ethnic. It was primarily uh, white, ran by the administration, and all of the educators that I was ever met or introduced to were all also white, and that was something that we talked about a lot, and it was also a big part of Miss Dr. Payne's book that we read, and I touched on that in the presentation, so I just wanted to include that here. Um, we also I did have a few ELL students that were from other countries like Mexico or Honduras, and teaching them science without being able to speak Spanish myself was a bit of a struggle, but I'm grateful for that experience. And this presentation just kind of goes over ways that we could provide assistance for them and the various things that we could do resource wise to give them some proper help. So as I said, I believe that the most important resource that we could have to start our plan is our staff. That doesn't just include teachers; that includes administration and even non-educational roles. The lunchroom staff, the custodial staff. Um, if we could access and have a pool of a wide variety of individuals to pull from who are properly trained or have experience dealing with diversity and multiculturalism, that have a part of education or even just experience in that in general, like a social worker as a counselor or anything like that. I believe that that is like step one primarily of providing a environment for students to learn in and be, I guess, mesh or be accepted well with everyone there. You got to be able to build a relationship with your students to properly get them ready to learn. That's something that's very important to me. You've got to stride that line of being a friend, but also being the adult figure in the room and being a proper educator. But you have to be able to connect to all of your students, and sometimes that can be a real challenge. It was for me, especially with the ELL students. I don't speak a word of Spanish hardly, and it was very hard to relate a lot of science concepts to them. And that was partially my fault because it was hard to get there, and I struggled with it for a bit, and I probably let them down in some areas, but I feel like I got better with it. And that's part of what we need to do with our staff. We need to, have professional development meetings, get them training, or even just hire teachers in general or administration members in general that are comfortable working with a wide variety of students that come from, the middle class, the upper class, the lower class, Hispanic, African American, um, rural settings are very different than like suburban settings. You have to be able to have teachers that can work and mix in with all of those things very well. Parental involvement. This is another big important thing that I observed had a very big impact on a lot of kids. I mean, I feel like it should be obvious that if your parent is involved with their child, that the child's going to have more inspiration, or they're going to do better, or they're going to be more behaved when they're in school and even when they're in life. A lot of the students that I worked with, many of them came from a single parent home, and several more were actually in foster care or in the process of being adopted via foster care. And a lot of these kids, they're not scared about sharing, and they'll give you information that you would have never known, and it can pull on your heartstrings. With a lot of them, they don't have a parent at home that will help them do homework, or they can't help them do homework in a lot of cases. Um, it's our job to reach out to these parents and let them know that we have resources that can help them, um, and that whenever they get involved with their kids' education, their kids generally do a lot better in their education in all aspects. Uh, as as far as the academic side, if you help them with their homework, you can help them by reading stuff to them. You can help them with math or with science or anything, and that's going to give them a better chance at succeeding in that particular subject. The same could be said for physical activities like sports. Just showing up to a game or volunteering your time to help the gate or run the concession stand. All of those things get you involved with the school in some way, and the kids see that and they feel that, and it makes them more engaged and more open to enjoying school. Because that's a big thing. A lot of kids don't like school. They don't want to be there. They'd rather be at home doing whatever. I had plenty of kids tell me they'd rather be out in the woods hunting than taking my science test, which I get it. I was there. But a lot of those kids, when they go home, they're basically on their own. They don't have a parent to help them do their homework, so they don't care about doing it at all. And we have a lot of ways now to get parents involved, and that's part of this plan is utilizing those various resources that we have now, like the internet primarily, and that's a big one. Everybody has a cell phone. Most everybody has a computer at home. Most everyone has internet access. Utilizing these tools like Facebook, Twitter, um, even the various resources at Google, like through Google Classroom, or you can send out emails to remind parents of, hey, your kid has an assignment due this day. We have a test coming up this Friday. We've got a quiz this Wednesday, and the parents can be notified of these things, and they'll see that. They'll think, oh, okay, I'll remind Timmy that he has a test on Friday, and I'll help him study on Thursday, and that'll help me get him prepared so he does a good job. You can track grades that way as well. There's a lot of ways that we can get parents involved, um, and even the ones that have to work extra, or the ones that have to work extra jobs. Any little bit that we can get them involved would be a help for their kid. So as I said previously, parental and communal outreach, those are very important. We don't have to just rely on the parents alone. As we're a school, we're a major part of that city or that town or that community, and we can reach out to the community to get assistance or support or resources even that we may not be tapping into. Uh, like I said, social media, we can utilize things like YouTube and Twitter and just get this information out there, or say, hey, we've got this big event coming up. We could really use some help if anybody wants to volunteer, um, or if anybody would like to host this activity at their building. Um, I mean, even reaching out to like yearbook sponsors to get ads in a yearbook to help pay for things. That's a way of reaching out to the community. They provide something for us, and we in turn can improve school functions and school life for the students. Another big communal effort is local libraries or other institutions like museums. This gives teachers and administration opportunities to go out to these places, and this is a really good teaching method for students. If we can go to a museum and a see the Declaration of Independence, that's a lot better than me just telling a student, like, yeah, there's this really old piece of paper that lets us know that we live in a free country. If they can see it, they can understand it better. So if we can support local institutions like that, that's a good way to kind of build a relationship between us and the community, and we're benefiting each other, and over as a whole, we're making the students' education better, which is the main focus. Um, and this gives everyone an opportunity to see those things. Um, a personal experience like this, a local college here at JSU, I had a biology professor volunteer his time to come and teach some local high school students at Weaver how to do plant floras, which is a way of preserving dried plants for study for later. And he was willing to come out there with some spare resources to teach these kids how to do that. He didn't have to. I didn't directly ask him to, but he was just willing to volunteer because he had a good relationship with some of the other older teachers there at the high school. And he was like, yeah, I'll come volunteer, and I'll teach them how to do this and show them how they can do it. And I'll bring some work samples and some of the stuff I've done, and I'll just give like a little mini lecture and workshop on how to do it. And nothing sadly ever came out of it because that was around the time the pandemic started. But um, reaching out to places like that's a great way to get interaction between an entire community. So, planning a new curriculum. This is a very big venture to undertake, as this would require approval from a lot of people. It would take a lot of work, and it would take a lot of time, but this would essentially reformat the way that we teach things. This would include um, changing activities and lesson plans, and just the way the school functions and that subject is taught in general, to include activities that can include everyone. So this would mean it would include our ELL students in a way they're comfortable. It would include our students who are impoverished in a way that they are comfortable. It would be able to include everyone of every religion or ethnicity or social status, and this could include all grade levels from kindergarten all the way to the seniors in the 12th grade. Um, But this plan, it would take a while to implement. And kind of like I said at the beginning, it would require us to expose our teachers and teach them how to do these things. They would have to be showed, okay, this is how we develop a plan that can include all, types of diversities. This is some resources you could pull from, and these are how we need to set things up from now on. And it'll take time to transition into, but as I said, if we can hire teachers who already are educated in this type of lesson plan design or activity design, or just exposed to in general how these things work, that would save us a little bit of time in designing our curriculum, because getting teacher input is, I feel, very important to a curriculum, because the old man behind the desk who's signing these papers, he's not the one who's teaching the students. He's not the one who's designing the lesson plans or the activities in most cases. So I think that if we can have the input from the teachers, and then even again input from the community when designing this, holding meetings at the Board of Education and getting parental and community input on how we should design our curriculum, that could be very important going forward. So this diagram here on the right, I wanted to touch on this because I feel that this is very important, and it covers the very basics of what we need to do for these students. Um, this is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a This is a diagram based on a theory that we use a lot in education. In order for students to be engaged and ready to learn, they have a series of needs or layers on this pyramid that need to be met in order for learning to properly take place. You can see down there at the bottom we have the physiological needs. So that would be things like eating breakfast that morning, or having lunch, or having warm clothes to wear and a place to sleep. Um, and then that kind of also ties into safety needs. So, having a place where they feel that they're safe. So their home being safe, it has doors that lock, it has windows that lock. The school being safe, we have a resource officer, we've got teachers who are there and looking out for the students, we've got, um, tornado and security drills in place. Those are the basic needs that students need to be engaged in school and learning properly. Unfortunately, not all of those needs are met. Now, you might be thinking, well, we live in America. Everyone has food and clean water. What are you talking about? Well, that is definitely not the case. After teaching in a very rural place in Alabama, I've seen and heard some stories that about made me cry just in the middle of class, because some of these kids, they don't get but maybe one meal a day, and it's very obvious. And then I've heard tales from other teachers about taking a student home from practice one day, and his house has just a front, like here's the door, here's the front walls, and then there's no supporting walls here on the back, and there's just a tarp for a roof over their house. And that student may be doing the best they can, but I couldn't. I don't think I could get up every morning and have to go to the local gas station or local Walmart to brush my teeth because our house didn't have running water. Um, I don't think I would be able to focus and be able to learn very well in that situation. Um, it I mean, it just hurts to even talk about. Um, a lot of our school and a lot of other schools work towards meeting that bottom need. We offer the free or reduced lunch. So students whose families are at a certain level, a certain cutoff level, they can get free or reduced lunch prices every day. Um, that's good. You know, a lot. I feel like most schools probably do that, but why should we just stop at lunch? Um, Further on, I mentioned that research, I'm sorry, for decades has said that, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, which, we have scientific proof of that. You eat in the morning, it gets your brain going better, you function better, you're more awake. Why don't we provide breakfast for the kids who need it? Getting those little cereal boxes won't cost us that much, and that provides them with that bottom tier and even a little bit of that second tier, because they're feeling that they're welcomed, that they're safe at this place because, hey, we come here, my friends are here, I can get some food here, uh, these people are looking out for me. So that kind of checks off both bottom two layers of our pyramid here. And that is kind of the whole crux of this plan that I feel. We're trying to get resources to meet the basic needs that all of our students need who can't get them. And honestly, food and water is kind of, I feel like it should go without saying. I mean, even me, if I don't have breakfast that morning or if I don't have a snack throughout the day, I'll start to lose focus. And I can't imagine being a middle school kid who's going through that and expecting them to learn algebra or, you know, memorize every bone in the human body or whatever you plan on teaching that day. They're going to have a hard time focusing if they're sitting there hungry or they're sitting there thirsty or they're worried about having to go back home and there might be an eviction notice on the door. So we need to work towards providing these basic resources that many people will take for granted. So here we're kind of continuing a lot of the material I just went over. But like as I said earlier, food and water kind of cover the basics of the bottom pyramid. Um, During there was the water crisis in Flint, Michigan that is still ongoing. It just doesn't get a lot of play on the news anymore because there's other things they would rather discuss. But it is a lot of students don't have access to clean water. Um, so nowadays, a lot of places, well, especially now, we're allowing students to bring in pre-bottled water or a water bottle that they can fill up. Um, I feel that this should be a something that we can learn from this pandemic as a whole and utilize into our plan here. Uh, Bottled water is not crazy expensive. We can set aside some money in the budget to have bottled water stations at places where students could need it. In the office, have some in the classrooms. If the teachers want to bring in their own, that's fine. Um, have it at the nurses' station so that students know that if they need it, if they need a drink and we don't have access to the water fountains right now, for like communal drinking areas, they can go somewhere and they don't have to get dehydrated and eventually get sick and unable to come to school or have to go home and drink dirty water. I feel that this is very, very basic information that we can incorporate very easily that will satisfy the needs of many students. I mean, it's not going to be something that you like to hear about or want to hear about or even possibly even think that well, this can't be happening in my school, but you would be very surprised. So now I would like to jump to another section of our plan here. Literacy and reading strategies are something that, personally, as a teacher, I think are very important. Um, whenever the first time I was exposed to a high school biology class during my first time as a practicum student being in a classroom after several years, I was really surprised by the amount of students who were struggling to read from their textbooks out loud. And it was very concerning to me because I had never thought of it before, because I've always, personally, not to gloat, but I've always felt that I was an exceptional reader whenever I was in school. I read way above my grade level. I enjoyed the books. I comprehended the books. Um, so I've always enjoyed reading, and I never felt that it was as big a problem until I got into a situation where I was in charge of these students and trying to help them understand how to read, basically. Um, our chart here comes from the National Center for Education, and it's basically detailing the um, population of each state that has below a fifth grade level of literacy. Um, and Alabama it's not the highest, but it's, you can see down in the southeast there's a pretty large amount of individuals who can't read above a fifth grade level. And while that may not hinder a lot of people in their everyday life, I suppose, those people may have children, and they want those children to grow up and be successful. But if they can't read above fifth grade level, what's going to happen when they get into the upper high school levels and they're needing help with reading Shakespeare or composing an essay, and their parents, the only people they have to rely on, can't read the instructions? Excuse me. So, imparting literacy strategies and assisting our ESL and ELL students with gaining a higher rate of reading comprehension and literacy is very important to both me as a teacher and this plan overall. And I feel that it should be something that is very important to all the boards and all the districts that are a part of our education system. This little info graphic, this is another bit of information from the U.S. Department of Education. It's about adult literacy, kind of what we mentioned, and it gives a little breakdown of ethnicities. And you can see there that it's not just people from other countries or people who were not born in the United States. The largest percentage there is, uh, well, white U.S. born adults. Uh, a lot of those probably come from rural areas like what we're looking at right now. Um, from personal experience, I firmly believe that is the case. You could see from our chart on the previous example, the southeast, which is a very has a lot of very rural areas that still come from a lot of agricultural aspects, kind of what I was looking at with Cherokee County. They have a low literacy rate. And I can personally attest to that with some of my students, both at the middle and high school level. That it doesn't. It's not just the girl from Honduras or the boy from Mexico who can't read well. It's the boy who was born in Riverview Hospital 30 miles away who he can't read above a third grade reading level. Or, there's another boy in the 10th grade who can barely read to write his own name. And it's incredibly sad that we've just kept pushing them forward just because maybe they're a good athlete or because, we feel that there's nothing else we can do for them. Um, but as educators, we have a wide variety of resources we can use. And newly trained teachers, to go back to that point, have got more, have been trained and have been given a lot of experience incorporating these reading and literacy resources. And more standards have been made that require the incorporation of these reading strategies. Um, so, including the support to our own personal in school libraries, I feel is very important. Um, if we have materials that the students want to read, there's a higher chance that they will go read it. And they'll want to go to the library and check out books to read. And it may not seem like a big deal, but if the students are interested in what they're reading, they're practicing reading. I mean, they're learning how to be literate. They're increasing their vocabulary. They're getting better at reading things. And nowadays, with how technology is, that's the ongoing struggle. In a lot of schools, we have that are considered one-to-one with Chromebooks or iPads or just computers, laptops, whatever the students used to do their work on. Those have a function where, like, if you assign them a paragraph to read, they could just have the computer read it to them. They're not learning anything from that. I mean, they're just sitting there staring at the screen. They're not reading it on their own. They're not learning anything from that, hardly. Um, so I feel that's one of the big contributors to the illiteracy rates. So going back, we need our teachers to step up and incorporate these reading strategies. And there may be a lot of people that say, "Oh, well, I'm a math teacher. We don't use words. We use numbers." There are plenty of reading strategies that can be incorporated for all subjects that go across the entire academic level. So we need teachers who are properly trained and ready to incorporate these techniques. So, what are some other ways that we can combat illiteracy and improve our plan here? And in doing these things, we need to make sure that we remember to include resources that everyone can make use of, not just the wealthy side that have access to all this technology stuff that they can use, or um, we can't just focus directly on students who speak Spanish or Chinese and help them learn English. We have to focus on everybody, even the native English speakers who may not be able to speak English very well. We need to help them too. So, um, as I mentioned before, uh, funding our library, having a wide variety of books, maybe books in other languages that we can use as instructional tools. Develop clubs or after school activities that promote reading, like a book club or um, something along those lines. And even there, with that book club, we could get parental involvement as well. We could have mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever come to the school and volunteer to read to the students in the book club, or they can all read the same book and then come and discuss it with one another and get their various opinions. that may not seem like anything drastic or crazy or super exciting to include in the plan, but it it's not about being extravagant. It's about getting results. And this I feel would be a good way to get some results. You're helping get parental and communal involvement with their students. The students are practicing a skill that is essentially required for life in order for them to succeed. And we're also supporting our local resources like the local libraries and our own library. Um, so I feel that setting aside time and a bit more of the budget for the library would be very important, and getting people to be more involved with illiteracy, because unless it's something that's happening to them when it comes to this, people don't really think about it unless you are coming from an educator's side or you're involved with a school. You don't see kids struggle to read and you don't think about it because when you talk to them, they can talk to you just fine. But if you ask them to read a letter that you wrote to them, that may not go over so well. And it's not just things like that, it's the directions on how to complete an assignment. So it's got a lot to do with their education as well. So to wrap things up here, I covered a variety of things that I feel go towards making our schools a better place, to incorporate a variety of things that we can use to make everyone feel more welcome at our school. It's got resources for our teachers, for the administration, for students, for parents, for the community. Um, but as I said, these things will take time. Um, right now, there is a shortage of well-trained teachers. There's a shortage of people who are willing to go into the education field for a variety of reasons. Um, but this plan kind of starts with us, and we can't make things better until we're willing to be involved in that aspect. Um, this plan is meant to bring out the best in the education system. That doesn't just include teachers, but that includes the students as well, to give them the best education possible. So I think that these resources, in combination with many others, would be the best way for us to improve upon our educational requirements for these students to give them the best chance at succeeding. Uh, thank you.